Frozen 2 now out in theaters. Now it's time to talk Simply Cinema. Hello everyone, I hope you're having a cinematastic day. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema, and before we get into my thoughts on Frozen 2, how it relates to Frozen 1, I'd love to hear yours down in the comments below. Let me know all that goodness, how it works in the Disney revival era. If you're not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all of my recent videos, because pretty soon I'll be ranking all 10 Disney revival era films from the worst to the best, including Frozen 2. Now we add it down to the list. But without further ado, let's give you my thoughts on Frozen 2. Frozen 2 kicks off right after Frozen as we get Elsa that continues the adventure. She hears whispers coming from an enchanted forest, and therefore she has the feeling that she has to follow it, and therefore she embarks on an adventure with Anna, Olaf, Kristoff, and Sven. And therefore they have to figure out what those whispers are, where that adventure leads her, and how to save Arendelle from certain attacks. Starting with the positives, surprisingly, Frozen 2 figures out a way to kick off a new original story that feels unique enough, that's a lot different than the original. Yeah, it continues the story of Frozen, explores more of different areas that we sort of had questions with. Some may not have thought of the questions, but it answers certain questions that's done in a way that's interesting and compelling enough for us to pay attention and figure out what's going on and where the story is really taking us in this mystery. And just as the original Frozen is really well known for its songs, especially with Let It Go, Frozen 2 brings out some other starring songs such as Lost in the Woods, Into the Unknown, and Show Yourself, and all of them are just really pleasing and really good to listen to. I really enjoyed listening to them on repeat afterwards. It's just really compelling. Lost in the Woods is a really cheesy romance song, but they're all really good and nice to listen to and really work well with the plot given, and therefore I really enjoy what's offered with the music. And with all the characters, all of them are continued just as well and interesting, as I really enjoy all of them even from the first. Olaf is a little sidebarred, and I'll have to get that more into the negatives, but all of them are still really well done. Their plots are continued, their story arcs and development are really well done. Especially as we get into the Enchanted Forest, the visuals are really pleasing and beautiful as we get all the bright colors mixed within the dull colors, and all the animation is just really top notch as we get the water and the trees and everything that looks almost real in some ways. Moving on to the negatives, in some ways more than others, this is not necessarily a perfect film, because as a sequel, while it holds up in other ways, it doesn't as a sequel necessarily, because it's trying to take an original idea, but the original idea feels so different than original and takes such a drastic tonal shift that it doesn't feel quite like it's in the same franchise in a sense from the original Frozen. The Frozen original is just fun and cheerful in all these bright colors, and this, while it has some of those bright colors, it's much more dark. It has these dark tones and goes in these pathways that it feels quite different than the original, even as it continues the original story. So while it works in some ways, it doesn't in others, as the tone is drastically different. And because of that tone, Olaf's character is sort of taken in a different direction, because they keep Olaf as that laughable, fun character for kids. And while I don't mind the way they take his character in the original and the way they portray it in this film, it just feels offsetting and out of place in this film, as everything else is a darker tone, and even some of the regular characters from the original are changed so they fit the tone of this story. But Olaf is still his happy, cheerful self, and it feels almost out of place in some ways that is not necessarily good. While Frozen 2 portrays a story that really holds up on its own, it doesn't quite work as well in some aspects as a sequel. and therefore I have to rate it simply 7.4 out of 10. And those are just my personal thoughts. We all have our different perspectives, different opinions on Frozen 2, and I'd love to hear yours down in comments below. Let me know what you think of this film. Does it live up to Frozen, or does it work as better than Frozen? And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed this review. Subscribe if you haven't already. And pretty soon I'll be ranking all 10 Disney Revival era films from the worst to the best. And you won't want to miss that, so make sure to subscribe. And be sure to check out some of these other videos on the right hand side of the screen. Make sure you check them out. Let me know what you think of them. And I'll be back for more movie reviews, rankings, and more.